Alan Neil Jones was born in June of 1977 in Jacksonville, North Carolina. More specifically, he was born on Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, as his father was serving as a Marine. At just a year old, Jones' family moved to Gainesville, Georgia, which is where he grew up. Jones grew up with his brothers, his mother, and his alcoholic father. His father would come home looking for a fight after a night of drinking and took it out on his kids and sometimes his wife. However, Jones is adamant in saying that despite his faults, he knew his father loved him. Unlike most wrestling fans growing up, Jones didn't watch WWE or WCW much as it wasn't really available to him. Growing up, Jones' family was quite poor and could barely afford basic TV, so instead, Jones grew up watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, though even that was limited due to poor TV reception. Admittedly, he wasn't really a huge fan of wrestling as a kid anyways. Living in poverty, the family of 6 was crammed into a small trailer where he and his brothers were stuffed into one room together. These were not easy conditions to live in. As you may know, Alan Jones is a very religious man. He stated that he would go to church every Sunday as a child with his family, but religion was never forced upon him by anybody, and that he decided for himself that the Christian faith was where he belonged. He's been a devout Christian since the early 90s. Alan has been an athlete ever since he was a kid. He played football, basketball, and baseball as he simply loved sports. He also has a background in amateur wrestling, but didn't enjoy it as much given that the conditioning was so intense. Jones attended Johnson High School in Gainesville and graduated in 1996. From there, he went on to Anderson College in South Carolina on a partial wrestling scholarship to study physical education. However, just as spring break rolled around his first year, Jones decided to call it quits and move back home. He didn't have a real backup plan, but decided to just get a regular job instead of staying at school. One day, Alan's friends decided to go to a wrestling school and convinced him to tag along. When he made it there, Jones decided that he was already there and may as well give it a shot. As soon as he got in the ring, Jones instantly knew this was something he would be good at. Jones was officially trained by Rick Michaels and debuted in 1998, just 2 years after graduating high school, in the Georgia-based National Championship Wrestling. Here, he would go under the name Mr. Olympia. He would lose in his very first match to Michael Brooks, but would begin to prosper soon after. By August of 1999, Mr. Olympia was the promotion's television champion. Just like most of the wrestling origin videos, I'm not going to cover every single independent promotion Jones wrestled in, just the larger ones. But just for fun, I'll list off a bunch of the smaller ones he competed in. Great Canadian Wrestling, All Pro Wrestling, United Wrestling Federation, One Pro Wrestling, Game Changer Wrestling, Valhalla Pro Wrestling, and International Wrestling Cartel. And that is only scratching the surface. Speaking of the independent circuit, in 2001, now going under AJ Styles, he would compete in All Pro Wrestling's King of the Indies tournament, but was eliminated in the quarterfinals by Christopher Daniels. Just a few months later, in X Wrestling Federation, Styles would lose in a battle royal for the XWF Cruiserweight title against the likes of Christopher Daniels, Juventud Guerrera, Kid Crash, and Psychosis. Moving forward a few more months, Styles would debut in Australia's World Wrestling All-Stars in early 2002. Styles would compete in some big matches here, but failed to capture the Cruiserweight Championship. However, that changed when Styles defeated Supernova and Jerry Lynn to win a tournament for the title. Shortly after the win though, Styles would vacate the belt. Styles would also compete in IWA Mid-South later that year, along with Frontier Wrestling Alliance in the UK. Going back to 1999 for a second, the AJ Styles name was born after two wrestling promotions, NCW and NWA Georgia, merged to form NWA Wildside, the developmental territory of WCW. Here, Styles would capture his second television championship in January of 2000, only to lose it and regain it one more time in the span of a year. In early 2001, WCW scouted both AJ Styles and Air Paris from NWA Wildside, placing them in a tag team called Air Raid. The team would have a short stint in WCW, appearing on WCW Nitro, but nothing really came from it, as just 5 months into Styles' main roster career, the promotion went under. Following WCW's demise, Styles went back to NWA Wildside where he would quickly become NWA Georgia champion after defeating Rick Michaels. After 2002, however, Styles only appeared in Wildside for the odd appearance, as at this point he was signed to the newly founded TNA. He would wrestle against some big names in Wildside, but his main focus was elsewhere. Speaking of 2002, it was a big year for Styles' career. Before the TNA offer was even on the table, Styles made 2 appearances for WWE. The first was in January of 2002 on an episode of Metal, where he lost to the Hurricane. The second was a dark match before SmackDown, which he lost as well. However, in April of 2002, WWE would offer Styles a developmental deal that required him to relocate to Cincinnati, Ohio, to wrestle in the Heartland Wrestling Association. However, Styles declined the offer on the grounds that relocation was not an option, as his wife was trying to pursue college and this would interfere. Bear with me, I will get to his TNA career soon, but first let's cover Ring of Honor. In 2002, Styles made his debut in ROH and quickly became a main eventer. Here, he would be the first to hold the #1 Contenders trophy, which was considered a secondary championship at the time. After a few failed attempts at the ROH championship, Styles decided to pursue the tag team titles, which he won with Amazing Red. The two would hold the belts for a while, defeating the Briscoe brothers on 3 occasions, but lost to Christopher Daniels and Xavier, a team known as the Prophecy. Styles would win the tag titles back, however with a new partner named Homicide. Styles would later jump back into singles competition and took fellow Georgia wrestler Jimmy Rave under his wing. Styles would defeat Bryan Danielson to become #1 contender for the title, but lost to the champion Samoa Joe. However, Styles would become the first ROH Pure Wrestling champion after defeating CM Punk in the finals of a tournament. Styles would also defeat Punk in the rematch for the belt, but due to controversy over in TNA where he was under contract, he was forced to leave ROH and vacate the title. Styles would return to ROH in 2005 and 2006, where he would have a feud with former protege Rave, which featured the memorable moment of Styles being suffocated with a plastic bag. Styles would go on to defeat the likes of Roderick Strong, Austin Aries, and Abyss, but would lose to Bryan Danielson for the ROH World Championship. Now, back to TNA, where AJ signed a non-exclusive contract back in May of 2002 just as TNA was starting up. In fact, Styles may have been the first wrestler ever signed to the promotion. Here, he was referred to as the phenomenal AJ Styles. Styles would spend over a decade in TNA, where he would become the face of the company. Styles started off by becoming the inaugural TNA X Division champion after defeating Jerry Lynn, Low Ki, and Psychosis. He would also win a second title, the NWA World Tag Team title, with Lynn soon after. Not too long after that though, the tag team would fall apart and Styles and Lynn would feud to no avail. Styles would also lose his X Division title to Low Ki, but would regain it in late 2002. However, Styles would once again lose it, but this time to Lynn. In 2003, Styles began to focus on the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and finally won it in June of that year to become the first TNA Triple Crown winner. He would hold this title for a few months, defeating numerous challengers, until he lost it to Jeff Jarrett, who insisted Styles abandon the heavyweight title and return to the X Division. Styles would refuse, but after winning and dropping the title one more time, he decided to head back. In 2004, Styles would quickly become X Division champion and had a memorable feud with Petey Williams. Styles would lose and regain the title a few times throughout 2005, with some memorable matches along the way. By far, the best match he had during this run was a 3-way between himself, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels, which was given a prestigious 5-star rating by Dave Meltzer. It was also runner-up for Match of the Year. In late 2005 and most of 2006, Styles would team up with Daniels. The two would win the NWA World Tag Team Championships after 2 failed attempts, but would eventually lose them in a border brawl match to Homicide and Hernandez, the Latin American Exchange. In November, AJ Styles would defeat Chris Sabin for his 6th X Division title after dropping the tag team belts to LAX. In the following months, Styles would begin a feud with Rhino and turned heel in the process. From 2006 to 2008, Styles would be involved in the Christians Coalition storyline, which featured Christian Cage and his team facing off against Kurt Angle and his, as well as the TNA Frontline story in 2008 and 2009 where Styles allegedly got married to Karen Angle, prompting a feud with Kurt. In 2008, Styles would also wrestle a few matches in New Japan as part of a partnership between the two companies. He would make 4 appearances here, getting his first real taste of the Japanese wrestling scene. From mid-2009 to 2011, Styles once again pursued the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. He would win the title in a 5-way match from Kurt Angle. Styles would also face Sting just a month later in a match that became a favorite amongst TNA fans. Styles would prosper and would retain the belt despite numerous elite-level challengers including Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and his former tag partner Tomko. During this reign, Styles would become the longest reigning TNA World Heavyweight Champion in history, surpassing Sting. His reign finally ended when he dropped the title to RVD after 211 days as champion. Styles would continue to work in TNA through 2013, working some notable matches in that time. Those include Styles vs Christopher Daniels in 2012, Styles and Angle vs Daniels and Kazarian in 2013, and Styles vs Austin Aries in 2013 as well. However, late in that year, contract negotiations between Styles and TNA broke down, and it was reported that he would become a free agent after 12 years with the company. Styles was extremely frustrated with the company, making critical remarks about the TNA product in a podcast interview with Brady Hicks after leaving. At this point, Styles began taking bookings to work in various independent promotions, such as CZW, PWG, and IWA Mid-South. He also made his return to ROH in early 2014, where he defeated Roderick Strong in his first match back. He would also go on to defeat Jay Lethal and Chris Hero as well. Also in 2014, after leaving TNA, Styles decided to sign a contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he would be revealed as the newest member of the infamous Bullet Club. Now, Styles was still working on the American circuit full time, so he's only in New Japan for the bigger events. Despite that, Styles quickly became the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, the 6th non-Japanese champion in history, and the first American since Brock Lesnar in 2005. Styles would defend the title successfully twice before dropping the belt to Hiroshi Tanahashi, as the Bullet Club was prevented from interfering. However, in 2015, Styles would once again become champion and would reign for 5 months. Skipping forward a bit, Styles would challenge Shinsuke Nakamura for his IWGP Intercontinental Championship. This was an excellent match that nearly attained 5 stars, though Styles lost. However, the very next day, Styles gave his notice to New Japan as he was signing with WWE. This resulted in Styles being kicked out of the Bullet Club the next night during his final appearance for the promotion. On January 20th, 2016, WWE confirmed that AJ Styles had signed a deal with the company after weeks of speculation and rumors. Apparently, Styles was in talks to return to TNA first, but WWE offered him a deal that he couldn't refuse, which also brought over his friends Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Styles would make his debut at the 2016 Royal Rumble, lasting 28 minutes, only to be eliminated by Kevin Owens. From there, Styles would feud with Chris Jericho, where he would come out on top. However, soon after, the two would form the tag team Y2AJ. The pair would be unable to capture the WWE Tag Team belts, which led to Jericho turning on Styles. This culminated with the match at WrestleMania 32, which Jericho won. Following that, Styles would reunite with Bullet Club members Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows to form The Club, which has essentially turned Styles heel. He would face Roman Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight title at Extreme Rules, but was unsuccessful. Most recently, Styles began to feud with the returning John Cena, which culminated in a match at Money in the Bank. Here, Styles would pick up the win through the help of The Club, despite signing a contract saying the club could not get involved in the match. And that was Wrestling Origins AJ Styles. This was a long video, but as a lot of you said on the last one, you like the videos to be longer rather than short. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, you should definitely leave a like and subscribe. If I skipped over anything you think was significant, then be sure to let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching.